Looks to me like the first one out of the block is from Jacob Belchak, who says, "Why does the leftist tactic of mocking their enemies work better than our tactic of pointing out flaws in arguments?" Well, it's a lot easier to go ha ha than it is to explain how a nuclear reactor works. Let's say. So on some level, Jacob, it's easier because it doesn't take much to mock somebody, and it takes a while to explain things. This kind of goes to what I was just talking about a minute ago with a conservatism. It's a sort of a sexy message for conservatism. Sexy and music and things like that, color, design. People don't think about these things. They just go right to the brainstem. And I got to be careful I don't get too sidetracked on this, but just to put a quick little note on it. If you have two people standing up at a debate and the sound is off and they're talking about issues, that's fine. But if one guy's taller, better dressed, better hair, slimmer, looks like he's better groomed, holds himself better, has a more confident delivery, people are going to go with that guy over the other guy, even if the other guy's making a better argument. And I mean something like 6, 7 out of 10 people will do that. And you don't have to like it. I don't like it. I know a lot of us don't like it. A lot of us think it's unfair that people are doing things like, they went for the young guy with the great smile who didn't know anything about anything. And, okay, we're paying the price for that. So on some level, I'm with you when I hear people say it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. They're absolutely right. It shouldn't matter. But it does. But it does. It does matter. And so the question then becomes, are you going to accept that it matters, or are you going to just kind of not? And I'm tired of people not accepting that it matters, because it does. It matters a lot. And so we can decide whether or not we want to play in that game. Now, I think personally that Jon Stewart and Steve Colbert and all that other kind of liberal mockery is mean. And I don't want to be mean. Cynicism is mean. Cynicism is mean. It's also cowardly. So this business of just mocking people, like, look at this guy, look at this square, look at no. But with that said, you can be funny in a happy warrior kind of way, and I think the way, and you can still put a point on it, by the way, an edge on it. And I don't know how many of you have noticed this, but I've been making a major effort to turn this corner in the last 6, 7 months or so. And the corner I'm turning now is I don't speak about them respectfully anymore. They don't earn it. They haven't earned it. They don't deserve it. I just openly call them weenies and control freaks and genetic mutants now, because that's what they are. And I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. A couple people in the comments are pointing out the difference between Nixon and Kennedy. It's a really profound truth. People that watched the debates between Nixon and Kennedy in 1960, those people that listened to it on radio thought Nixon won hands down. But the people who watched it on TV thought that Jack Kennedy won. And it's because Nixon refused to wear makeup. And Nixon was sweating, and Nixon was shorter, and Kennedy was tall and elegant. And so the people listening on radio heard the substance of the arguments, but the people watching on TV also got the visual appeal, and it skewed people's perspectives. So, again, I think it's nuts not to play in that game. And frankly, if you think it through, if we have the argument and they've got the packaging, which is the case, it's really about as simple as I could put it. We've got the argument, they've got the packaging. What happens when you've got the argument and the packaging? And ever increasingly these days, they don't even have the argument. They don't even have the packaging, and nobody really likes this guy anymore except for his hardcore fan base. So I think that argument plus packaging beats packaging, because I know that packaging beats argument, so it's kind of rock, paper, scissors thing, right? If you got argument here and packaging is better, argument and packaging is better yet. That's the plan, is just, let's just do that. Let's just do that. Let's just get the argument and the packaging. So we're going to be working on that in the near future. One thing I can allude to, again, I'll just tease it a little bit, because I think we'll spend more time on this next week. Had lunch about a week ago with somebody I hadn't seen in a while, and I wouldn't call him a close friend, but we were associates and knew each other and got a chance to joke around a little bit. But we just hit it off a week ago at dinner, and it was a dinner with Dave Zucker. Dave Zucker is the director of Airplane and the Naked Gun movies and the Scary Movie movies, and he did an incredible political video on Barbara Boxer. With everybody in that video is a friend of mine. Everybody except for Nick Searcy, of course. Nobody likes him. Zoe is in it, and you know, all of our friends are in that video, with Barbara Boxer insisting on being called senator. And Dave Zucker wrote that and produced it and shot it, and it looks like a little feature film, and it's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, just go on YouTube and look for Barbara Boxer, Call Me Senator. It's really effective. It's a very effective ad. Really took it to her. It made her look like a pompous jerk, which is kind of what she was. So Dave Zucker and I sat down and talked about how we could move the needle in terms of the culture in ways that we hadn't been doing before. Now, what Dave Zucker wants to do is he wants to do a rebuttal to the State of the Union, a semi-serious one. He said we should shoot it in the Reagan Library. And he said if we only had some guy who was tall and, you know, funny and good-looking and could get down there and deliver this thing with a little snap. And I said, I can start looking for a guy like that, you know. We'll see. If you're not so concerned about the looks, maybe I could do it. And as it turned out, I'm an enormous fan of Dave Zucker. He's a hilarious guy. Now, the thing about Airplane is some of those jokes don't work, but some of them are brilliant. And he invented a new kind of comedy. Airplane's not just another comedy movie. Airplane is... I remember seeing Airplane in theaters. I think it was in high school or something, or just right around college, I guess it was. And it's like, what is this thing? So when Dave Zucker says, hey, you're a really funny guy 3 or 4 times in the course of a night, that means a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. So what Dave Zucker wants to do is he wants to do a rebuttal to Obama's State of the Union address. And the one thing we had in common immediately when we started talking about this is we said, if we're going to do a rebuttal for the State of the Union, it won't be the official rebuttal, obviously, because the Republicans could do it, but they won't. They'll do it in a basement again, you know, or have Marco Rubio out there standing in front of lights, you know, asking for a drink of water, and the whole world will just grind to a halt. The time will stop in the time it takes for him to drink his water. Dave said to me at dinner, he said, you know, Bill, if you do that in front of an audience, you can take a drink while people are laughing or applauding. I said, I like the way you think, Dave. So what we would do is we would do it someplace impressive, like the Reagan Library, which is spectacular. And if you fill the Reagan Library with 200 or 300 rabid conservatives, then the rebuttal to the State of the Union isn't something that comes out of a basement, you know, where the rest of the 3 or 4 knuckle-dragging diehard true believers live before, you know, the wave of progressive history takes over. No, then all of a sudden the rebuttal to the State of the Union has laugh lines, and it has ringing applause lines, and it has people cheering, and it has people booing, you know, and in all the right places. And it really is a very, very effective way to do it. So I think we can find the means to do it. We don't have a lot of time. We got really December to get in place for it. December and a week or two to January. And what we would have to do is we'd have to have a pretty clear idea of what the conservative statement for the Union should be. And then I think they release the speech about a day before he actually gives it. Then we would have to read the speech and watch the speech so that we can specifically rebut certain points that Obama was making. Give you a quick little example about this. I think in one of his State of the Union addresses, Obama was talking about the Wright brothers. You know, government is important, and therefore look at the Wright brothers. And I'm about to jump out of my seat. I'm screaming at the television, top of my lungs, really, honestly was. It's like there was, in fact, a government flight program, Mr. President, and it wasn't the Wright brothers. It was run by Samuel Langley. They had $50,000, which was a hunk of money in those days in 1903. Samuel Langley had the entire force of the U.S. government, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Army behind him. He built this enormous structure on the Potomac. He built this giant raft and this god-awful piece of crap airplane called an aerodrome, and it sailed off of the ramp and fell kersplash into the Potomac River. And that was the government program, a catastrophic, expensive, over-engineered failure that never came close to succeeding. The Wright brothers, Mr. President, were 2 guys who used their own money in secret on their own and got as away from the government as they possibly could and made it happen and only recorded it when they were sure it was going to work. And, you know, for him to just come out and say, I mean, seriously, how dumb do people have to be to buy this? Well, dumb enough, I guess. So it really is the kind of thing where when you do that State of the Union rebuttal, you really want to have a couple of things that he says, that Obama said, you know, 10 minutes ago or half an hour ago. And you get in there and get them done. Now, this thing is a gigantic piece of work, and it would have to be, we'd have to shoot it. I think we'd probably have to shoot it half an hour or 10 minutes after he finishes the speech. As a matter of fact, we probably should watch the speech on screens and get people really jazzed up, and then I'll just come traipsing down there, you know, and come out of Air Force One and get up on that stage and laugh at these people, laugh at them. You know, that's kind of the point we're trying to make here. is you need to laugh at them. They need to be laughed at. They're hilarious. They're just bad people with bad ideas, and mock them. Mock them. Just laugh openly at them. Just mock them. And then the theme of the State of the Union ought to be, if we just get the government out of people's way, just think of what would happen. So that's kind of what's in the works here. And it's off of your question there, Jacob. It's a great question. So just to recap and to close this thing off, you said, why is the leftist tactic of mocking their enemies work better than our tactic of pointing out flaws in their arguments? It does work better, but let's do both. Let's point out flaws in their arguments and mock them, because they can't handle mockery. They can handle, they're not real good with argument, but they expect a little pushback in terms of argument. What they can't bear is being laughed at. That's more than they can handle. So there you go.